What if the first person to reach the North Pole wasn't the man history told you about? What if the true pioneer, the one who planted his boots on the top of the world first, was a man whose story was almost completely erased? For over a century, the history books have told us that American explorer Robert Peary was the first to conquer the North Pole in 1909. But what if that is only part of the story? Today, we're diving deep into the frozen wilderness of the past to uncover the incredible, and largely forgotten, journey of Matthew Hensen. He was Peary's indispensable partner, a master of Arctic survival, and the man many now believe was the true first person to stand at 90 degrees north latitude. This is the story of a trailblazer whose legacy was buried by the prejudices of his time, and why it's a story that needs to be told. Matthew Hensen's life began in a world that offered him very few opportunities. Born in Maryland in 1866, just a year after the end of the Civil War, he was orphaned at a young age. Driven by a thirst for adventure, he ran away to sea as a cabin boy at just 12 years old. For years, the ocean was his classroom. He sailed around the world, learning navigation, geography, and how to survive in the harshest conditions. It was this resilience and worldly knowledge that would change the course of his life. In 1887, while working as a shop clerk in Washington, D.C., a fateful encounter occurred. A young naval officer named Robert Peary walked into the store. Peary was planning an expedition to survey a canal route in Nicaragua and was impressed by Hensen's experience at sea and his confident demeanor. He hired Hensen on the spot, not just as a valet, but as a field assistant. This meeting was the start of a partnership that would last over 2 decades and push them both to the very edge of human endurance. It was a partnership that would take them from the jungles of Central America to the unforgiving ice of the high Arctic. Their early expeditions together were a brutal training ground. They faced treacherous jungles and tropical diseases in Nicaragua, but it was the Arctic that truly forged their bond and tested their limits. When Peary set his sights on the ultimate prize, the North Pole, Hensen became his most crucial asset. He wasn't just another member of the team. He was the backbone of the entire operation. While Peary was the strategist and fundraiser, Hensen was the man on the ground. He quickly mastered the skills of the local Inuit people, learning their language, their hunting techniques, and most importantly, how to build and drive dog sleds. The Inuit respected him, calling him Maripalik, or Matthew the Kind One. He was the essential bridge between Peary's ambition and the practical realities of Arctic survival. Without Hensen's expertise in handling the sleds, managing supplies, and building relationships with the Inuit guides, Peary's dream of reaching the pole would have remained just that, a dream. Over 2 decades, Peary and Hensen mounted 8 attempts to reach the North Pole. Each expedition was a life or death struggle against nature at its most extreme. They endured unimaginable hardships, temperatures that plummeted to 60 degrees below zero, blinding blizzards that lasted for days, and the constant threat of starvation. Frostbite was a constant companion, claiming 8 of Peary's toes on a previous expedition. They navigated treacherous pressure ridges, massive walls of shifting ice that could crush a man in an instant, and crossed terrifyingly thin ice that threatened to plunge them into the frigid Arctic Ocean. Many men on these journeys didn't make it back. The physical and mental toll was immense. Yet, through it all, Hensen's skill and endurance were unwavering. His ability to build igloos, repair sledges, and keep the team's morale up in the face of despair was legendary. He was the one who kept the expeditions moving forward, pushing through the pain and the doubt, 1 icy mile at a time. In February 1909, they began their final, desperate push for the pole. The strategy was to use a system of support teams to lay a trail and drop off supplies, with a small, elite group making the final dash. As the expedition drew closer to its goal, Peary sent the other teams back one by one. For the final, grueling 150-mile leg, the team was stripped down to just 6 men: Peary, Hensen, and 4 Inuit guides named Ota, Igijingwa, Siglu, and Oquia. By this point, Peary was exhausted and suffering from severe frostbite, often having to be carried on the sleds. Hensen, still strong and skilled, broke the trail, leading the way. On April 6, 1909, they believed they had made it. But here is where the story takes a critical turn. Hensen later wrote in his autobiography that due to a navigational miscalculation and his speed in breaking trail, he had actually overshot their target. He realized he had likely passed the North Pole and returned to camp, making him the first to arrive. He wrote, "I was in the lead that had overshot the mark a couple of miles. We went back then and I could see that my footprints were the first at the spot." Many experts now believe Matthew Hensen reached the North Pole a full 45 minutes before anyone else. He was the first human being to stand at the top of the world. When the team returned to America, a hero's welcome awaited, but only for one of them. Robert Peary was celebrated, showered with medals, and promoted to Rear Admiral. Matthew Hensen, the man who made it all possible, was largely ignored. In the racially segregated America of the early 20th century, the idea of a black man being the first to the North Pole was, for many, unthinkable. Peary himself, who had relied on Hensen for over 20 years, did little to credit his partner, even distancing himself and claiming the glory solely for himself. While Peary received fame and fortune, Hensen spent the next 30 years working as a clerk in a federal customs house in New York, his monumental achievement all but erased from the public record. For decades, his story was a footnote, a whisper in the annals of exploration. He was a hero in the shadows, his contributions dismissed and his rightful place in history denied simply because of the color of his skin. But a story this powerful cannot stay buried forever. Slowly, over many years, the truth began to surface. In 1937, Hensen was finally invited to join the prestigious Explorers Club in New York. In 1944, Congress awarded him a duplicate of the silver medal given to Peary. Presidents Truman and Eisenhower both honored him before his death in 1955, but his ultimate recognition came posthumously. In 1988, in a powerful symbolic gesture, Matthew Hensen's remains along with his wife Lucy's were moved from a shared grave in New York and reinterred with full honors at Arlington National Cemetery right next to the tomb of Robert Peary. A monument was erected, finally placing him alongside his expedition partner in death as he had been in life. Today, his legacy is celebrated. A naval ship has been named in his honor, and his story is finally being told in museums and schools, inspiring a new generation to recognize the contributions of this incredible, unsung American hero. Matthew Hensen's journey is a testament to perseverance against all odds, not just against the brutal forces of nature, but against the crushing weight of prejudice. He was a master explorer whose skills were second to none. His story forces us to look again at our history and ask who gets to be a hero, and whose stories are left behind in the cold. So, what do you think? After hearing his story, do you think Matthew Hensen deserves to be recognized as the true first man at the North Pole? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. History is not just what is written down, but what we choose to remember and celebrate. Thanks for watching, and if you found this story as inspiring as we did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more hidden histories.